Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a process video for you today. This is for day 2 of But God from Bythewell4God. And you'll see I'm talking a lot with my hands because originally when I filmed this, I thought I would do a real-time video. And then when I got done, it was like 33 minutes long. And so I just felt like maybe that would be too much, but I would really love your input about that if you like real-time videos. I've had people mention them in the past and about enjoying them. I've also had other people mention just kind of keeping in all of the things that I would normally edit out. And so I've kind of come to a compromise today. So what I have done is I'm going to be working through day 2. Like I said, I did record this in real time, but in hindsight, I just feel like I wanted to shorten up that time a little bit. So I did leave everything in, and I'll walk you through some of my decision-making process for the things that I did. But I did choose to just speed it up. So this is sped up twice the time. Like I said, this whole page, this whole card took me about 33 minutes originally. So off camera, before I started filming, I have written out all my notes and my scriptures on some journaling cards. And now I'm just going through and kind of talking through the process of why I chose what I chose. So because the journaling cards and the flashcards for this day are all greens and teals, I wanted to use something that I felt like would complement that. So I chose the purple tag. There are, 4 different designs in the tag bob kit. And then I chose this purple and green paper because it has the purple and the green and the teal, a little touch of it in the background. And so that's what I'm going to be using to create a pocket for this card to hold my notes. But first I want to add a little bit of interest to the background. And so I am starting off, I'm going to use the jungle foliage stencil that released with this kit. And I am using some mint tape, and I'm working on the Tim Holtz mixed media mat, the new one that just came out that goes over like your glass mat. So it's a non-stick surface, so I can, clean it up really easily and everything. And as a side note, I know that it looks a little bit weird on camera. If that is like too offensive, please let me know in the comments. And if it's okay, then let me know too. I'm just trying to have something a little bit different to film on that's easier for me to work on. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to be using this jungle foliage stencil, and I am starting out with Distress Oxide ink and Bundled Sage. And I'm very purposely starting out in the bottom left-hand corner because I know that that's where my pocket's going to go. So if I don't like how this purple or how this green looks on top of this purple, I can change and pivot because I will be covering it up with the pocket anyway. That's kind of the thought process. As it stands, I did like how that looked. So I'm going to go ahead and use this Bundled Sage. I'm just using a makeup blender brush here, and certainly you could tape this stencil down as well. I'm just holding it down with my fingers. It's not that big of a stencil, so it's fine. But I am making sure to add the ink in varying intensity. So I have some places that are a little bit darker and some that are lighter, just to kind of mimic some of the imagery that's in the back of the background paper. And now I'm just going to pull off all of this mint tape. This is low tack tape that you can use for, masking off things. It also works well to hold like die cuts down and stuff. You can get it on scrapbook.com. That's where I got mine. And I always kind of reuse it. So I actually set it off to the side. And I will reuse it as much as I can. That's just me. But anyway, I wanted to tape off the border of this tag because I didn't want the images to kind of get too busy. And so I want to do the same thing with the paper that I'm going to be using. I'm actually just going to tear the top of this, and I marked off the paper from the inside edge of the design on the card or on the tag itself. So you can kind of see I went ahead and ripped it across there, and I know that I want to rip it down some. I want just a little bit less of that paper. I want more of the background showing. But I'm just going to kind of trim this down a little bit with my trimmer here. So that I have good straight edges on the left and the right so that it lines up nicely with the border that's on the background of the tag. And then I'm just going to use this paper. I just felt like this was a little bit too tall, so I'm going to tear off some more of this just so I have a little bit more of that background showing there. I did stencil the entire background because I didn't know how much of, how big this pocket was going to end up being. So I did decide to use some more of this bundled sage, and I'm just going around the edge of the paper just to kind of help it blend in a little bit more. I like to distress all the edges of everything most of the time. So anyway, I'm just using the bundled sage on there to just continue that color. And then I'm going to use my Barely Art. This is not Barely Arts. This is Art Glitter Glue. I'm using this because it's what I have. I actually prefer Barely Arts liquid glue, but I accidentally bought a lot of this Art Glitter Glue. I didn't realize it came with a huge refill when I was purchasing it. I just wanted to try it, and I ended up with a big bottle of that has a refill. So I'm trying to use it up. It's the same, liquid adhesive. It works well. It just dries a little bit faster, which can be a good thing, but sometimes I need just a little bit of wiggle room to glue things down. But Barely Arts does dry quickly too, but this one just dries just a little bit faster, and I feel like it's a little bit runnier, if that makes sense. But anyway, so now what I'm doing is kind of going through and talking about how I chose some of these ephemera pieces. And again, I have not edited anything out other than the writing out of the scriptures and my notes from the devotional. Everything that you're seeing is exactly how I work through this process. So I'm pulling out a few different things that I think will coordinate. I have that big monstera leaf, which I really love, but I feel like it's just a little bit too big. I really love the butterfly. There are some butterflies in the background of this paper, and I really loved that, the one there on the left, that kind of more teal one, but it was just a little bit too big. I just felt like it was going to take up too much space. And then as a side note, I store these when I'm working on the kit. I store these in one of these little paper CD cases, and this has worked out really well for me. I get questions a lot about how I store my ephemera after a kit is finished. And so in here, I have both the set that came with the devotional and the extra set of ephemera. I have them all in that little case. And it's just paper. And then when I'm finished, whatever is left over, that thing will go into a container that I have just sitting on my desk. That way, when I'm working through other projects, if I can see through there, I can see if I have something that will match. And then that way just helps me to be able to use up all the ephemera, even if I don't get it all used up during the time that I'm working on the particular devotional. So that's just how I store my extra ephemera. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I thought I would just throw that in there. I did decide to use this little butterfly. It does have a little bit of the teal in it, and the kind of bottom right hand side, and I'm sorry that I'm kind of off camera. I thought I was more on camera. I'm just fussy cutting this, but I am leaving a little bit of the white. I know some people will cut out all of the white off of the die cuts. It's really just kind of personal preference. For me, it kind of depends on the way that I'm using it and where I'm using it and the image itself. So because of the antenna on the butterfly, I wanted to leave a little bit of the white, and also I wanted to pull that white from the paper that I added kind of up to the top of the card, just to kind of pull everything, make it a little bit more cohesive. And I do feel like I want something down here on this left side of this paper, but I'm not really sure what that is. So I know I want to have that butterfly kind of hanging off of the edge, and I'm just trying out some of these other ephemera pieces that I had pulled that I felt like would go with this tag, but it's just none of those are really speaking to me. So I decided I would go through the labels, and I'm going to use one of the labels, and I want to use the sticker that has the title of the day that I'm working on, which is day 2. And I didn't do this for day 1, but I'm going to go ahead and do it for day 2. These label or title starters are part of the extra sticker kit that released with this devotional kit. They've been doing that the last few months, and I really love having the option of having these pre-made. It just kind of saves some time. And so I want to have this kind of just hanging off of the edge here. But again, because it's the white background of that with the white background of the paper, I feel like it's going to get lost. So I want to add a little something behind my label. And I'm going to use that same sheet of paper, but I'm just going to use the back side where it has the green leaves on the back. And it's just going to tie together everything because it's got that same sort of pattern. So I tore this down, and then I realized it was just a little bit bigger than what I wanted and a little bit more of a rough edge than I wanted. I still want that deckled edge, so I'm using my Tim Holtz decal trimmer. You could certainly use a tearing ruler, or if you have some like old school, craft scissors that have that deckled edge, you could do that. You could certainly just cut it straight and it would be fine, or leave it torn. I just wanted a finer deckling on there. And I'm trying to decide how big I want this to be. And I am going to go ahead and edge this as well, because I did with the white paper. You don't really see it too much on camera. You can see it in person. Obviously, it's not going to stand out as stark as if I had done something that was, you know, brown or black or whatever. But I wanted it to kind of match with the white paper that's on there. And then trying to decide if I want to leave this kind of inside that edge, kind of the border around the tag, or if I want it to hang off the edge. And I decided I want it to hang off. I just think that that's going to add some interest to it. As you can see, the butterfly is also going to be hanging off of the edge. So I stuck the little title starter sticker down, and then I adhered that label to this background paper. Now I'm just kind of deciding where I want to trim this off. I don't want it completely covering or anything, so I kind of eyeballed that, and now I'm going to use that glue again. And I stuck it down, and then I realized I stuck it over too far. So I'm going to try to kind of slide this over to the left. This is where Barely Arts gives you a little bit more time to kind of do that than Art Glitter Glue. If you've ever worked with either of those, then you know, I like them both, but for different reasons. So there you go. In hindsight, I think I went back after and just along that one edge, I did add a little bit of distress in that same green color, just to the edge of that where that white is. But now I'm just going to glue down this little butterfly, and I'm leaving that little wing, just that one little section hanging off the edge. But the tag ring that I created, I'll put that video down below. I created a cover that was just a little bit wider than my tags for that reason. I like to have things hanging off of my pages. I just feel like it adds some interest to them. And so I created the tag covers just a little bit bigger, so that it's going to protect that little butterfly wing that's kind of hanging off of the edge. And I'm just trying to decide how much of these notes and flashcards and things I want to put on the front, and some of them are going to go on the back. I put the smaller flashcards on the front because I wanted to keep more of the visibility of that butterfly and that background. And then I'm just going to create a real simple pocket here on the back side. Again, I'm going to keep it within the edges of that tag. So I have that border that is going to go all the way around. And mostly because I really love the pattern on that border. It was also on the flashcards this month, and it was on a couple of the papers in the paper pack. And I really like that pattern. I just feel like you can do a lot with it. It's not too busy. Anyway, I just really liked it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with this one. I did, you know, just tear it off. This is all from that same 6x8 sheet of paper that I had pulled out. You can do a lot, especially working with tags of this size. So I just created that little pocket. I'm going to glue down the 3 sides. And I will say, one of the reasons I have gotten this question before about why I use a liquid glue versus like a tape runner. You could certainly use a tape runner. You could use double-sided adhesive, score tape, or anything like that. But when you're creating pockets, it's sometimes helpful to use a liquid glue, because if you use like a tape runner, that glue never dries. And so you run the risk of your stuff sticking down into that adhesive, and sometimes it will get stuck in there. And so just using a liquid adhesive, that glue is going to dry, and then you don't have to fight with things trying to pull them out of the pockets or whatever. So just make sure that was stuck down really well. And I'm going to put the remainder of my notes back here. Certainly I could have put them all in the front, but I didn't want it to look too full up there either. And I have all of these cards because they have all of the scriptures from this day on the devotional. So here I think is where I'm actually talking about that different type of glue. I wanted to make a note of that as well. And I feel like this side down here might need something. So I have one of these ephemera pieces. This is that, I think it's that Monstera leaf. Again, I'm sorry that I am off camera here completely. You can't see what I'm doing. I'm just fussy cutting that one. I'm keeping this one a little bit closer to the edges because I feel like it will stand up off that white background just a little bit better. And this is part of the process where normally I would edit this whole section out, because in the end I end up not using this leaf. And so I guess this is kind of my question about real-time videos. So you know, I know that watching somebody fussy cut something is not exciting, especially when that person ends up not using that ephemera piece or whatever. So I would really love your input about how you feel about real-time videos and some of these kinds of things where, you know, you have something, you think you're going to use it and you don't. because I know people's time is valuable, and I know you don't always have a lot of time to watch all the videos that you want. There's a lot of content out there. And so I do appreciate everyone that watches my videos, and I want to make sure that you feel like it's a good use of your time. So in the end, I put this down. As soon as I put it down, I realized I just don't like it on here. And I really would just prefer the plain paper. So I'm going to take it off. And again, that's where I would really like your input on that. If you would like a real-time video where I talk through all of this, you know, as I'm working through, you can kind of hear the thoughts in my head, then let me know. And if you're good with fast-forwarded videos with everything edited out, then I would appreciate that information as well. So I did feel like that everything was pretty well complete at this point. I didn't need to have the backside as decorated as the front, but I do like having stuff on both sides because it's a tag ring, so you're going to be flipping through there. I want to create some tag reinforcers. I happen to have a hole punch that does this. This little weird, it's actually, I think, We Are Memory Keepers. And it punches out the little reinforcer holes. But this tag bob set from Bythewell4God did come with tag reinforcers. So you could even buy the white office supply ones and decorate them yourself. You could stamp on them, you could color them, you could do whatever. I just happen to have this one, so I'm using the back side of that paper, that green leaf pattern, just to have a little bit of contrast up there and some interest at where that hole is. And now I'm just going to add this into my little tag ring, and you can kind of see where I was talking about the butterfly wing. It's safely tucked away in there. It's not going to get bent or anything. So again, I really would value your input about these types of videos. And if you would take a minute to include your thoughts about that, I really would appreciate that. I do value that. I do appreciate every one of you that watches my videos and likes and comments and subscribes. That really does help me out. So if you haven't subscribed, I would appreciate it if you did that, and give this video a thumbs up. And until next time, bye.